Call to order the 886th meeting of the directors of the MSAD 27.
Keith Gendro.
Here.
Kurt Susi.
Here.
Jacob Terrio. In Zoom land. Toby
Here.
Rowe. Barry Ouellette.
Here.
Gary Sibley is not here. Sarah Ashley.
Here. Adjustments to the agenda.
Yeah, you're gonna see a white copy of the agenda. That is the official agenda, not the pink copy. And that has adjustments on it. Under items of business, old business, you're going to add in item C, Valley Unified Education Service Center, and that's been added on your copy. And then under items of business, add new business, item A, motion to enter into executive session pursuant to 1 MRSA 4056A to discuss duty of officials. And I would need consensus of the board to approve those since this is a special meeting.
Motion to accept.
Second.
All those in favor? We're doing it?
So we're doing
Was that a yes vote, Toby?
No, I abstain.
Okay.
I don't know that we can add those.
Oh,
I don't
is it
think
Does it
we
need to
have-
be unanimous?
I think it has to be consensus of the board. is
Well,
what-
time for discussion. I think was this something that Gary had asked to add?
Yes.
I
Then
don't
maybe-
know if we should add it if the guy who wanted to add it's not here. That's my only concern. I know this was Gary's genesis, and that's kind of my concern, is if Gary's not here to lead us in this, I don't know what, I mean, that's my thought on it.
Yeah.
I just found out Gary's not coming,
We do.
that makes sense,
so
actually.
I don't think we should amend it, I mean, for what it's worth. You guys thoughts?
What?
I don't even know what it's about.
Well,
When's
then,
our next meeting?
You have a regular scheduled meeting the 21st, so not next Monday, the Monday after.
The same night as the Valley Unified?
Valley Unified is next Monday, correct?
The 21st is the
21st.
Next
21st.
Monday is the 21st?
Oh, then the 28th. Sorry about that.
So is there anything that cannot wait until then?
Let me double check on that. These are, I have no idea what these, well, I have a general idea of what these items are, but it was added at the request of the chairman.
I can tell you that for the 28th, for Gary or most people, it's not gonna work.
Yeah.
28th, is that on a Monday?
It's actually, it's a moose week hunt.
Yeah, 28th is our next regular school board meeting.
well, we have a motion on the table to adjust the agenda. If Gary's not here to talk about it, I'm not inclined to adjust the agenda.
Okay,
How's everybody else feel?
I agree with that.
I agree.
Okay, so we'll let my abstention stand, we don't go it, I'm the obstinate one. We
Thank
can
you.
let the vote go as it did, and it'll get us where we need to be.
So we'll stay with the regular agenda.
Yep.
Okay, public participation, so this. No, nothing on here, anybody?
And we're going to talk about what's on the agenda, sports, and employee assistance program. Girls, do you want to mention anything about sports? Now's your time.
If you don't, we're gonna take the balls all the way.
No?
No comment here.
No comment? Okay. So, last week I presented to you what I suspected would be the revised guidance on fall sports. As suspected, the proposal is to follow the community sports guidelines. Just to summarize what that means, it's going to be regional play, so Aroostook County play. It's going to be a shortened season, 10 games for varsity soccer, and then for cross-country and golf meet, is going to be whatever they can fit in that time. It's following CDC guidelines. It's face masks for all in attendance, optional for players who are actually in the game on the field, and I'm speaking specifically to soccer. For other sports like golf, face masking should be adhered if you cannot have a 6-foot distancing. But that usually is not a problem with golf. With cross-country running, the face mask will be optional. 100 participants at a site only. Aroostook County play only. 10 soccer games I mentioned. No use of locker rooms, no indoor practices. If Aroostook County goes yellow or red in the designation from the DOE, sports will stop. So it's all the things that we talked about last week. The biggest discussion right now circulating is how to manage and maintain 100 participants. How do you do that, and how do you do that fairly? So I'm going to share my screen with you, and I want to show you a tool that we developed. Just give me a second here. So here's a tool that Mr. Morgan is going to use in order to help determine how many participants we have at a game. For the sake of argument, let's say we're playing Caribou. This is our girls team. And let me enlarge this a little bit. The opponent, Caribou, is going to be coming here, and we find out 24 hours in advance that they have 21 players, 2 coaches, and a manager. That's 24, right? We plug it in. Our home players, just on the roster, let's say for the sake of argument, we have 18. Managers, we have 2. Coaches, we have 2. On-site administrators, we might have Mr. Warnkin and one of the principals, so that's 2. We're probably going to have a nurse on site. Usually we have 4 ball runners. Maybe we'll change that based on what happens with these numbers. We have someone running the clock, somebody announcing, somebody live streaming, so that's 3. Referees, they may assign 2 or 3, but they opt to assign 3 in big games. So what that would do with the numbers, oops, let me go back here, is if we were to give each player on our team 2 tickets, so our home players have 18, and we give them 2 tickets, we're going to call it the parent tickets, but the player can give it to whomever they want. That would only give us 5 extra tickets for the 100 capacity in that venue. So you can see how quickly 100 is claimed really, really quick. Some of the teams were arguing about why only 2 for family members. Well, I can't give a third. You know, in this scenario, maybe if we're playing a very small team who only has 10 players, maybe that would happen. But our thoughts about this, and speaking with Mr. Warnkin today, if we do have extra tickets, perhaps that is left to the discretion of the high school administration, where they make an announcement the morning of the game, offer staff or senior students first dibs on extra tickets, and then we proceed that way. And our vision is to have a very obvious, colorful badge. We thought about a lanyard originally, but with disinfecting and all those things, and lanyards being cloth, we thought maybe a badge that shows that they have game admittance, and only those with the badge would be allowed at the venue at that time. It's going to be very difficult to manage. We have a lot of questions remaining about what if people stay in cars? Is that count towards the 100? So I know Mr. Warnkin is going to an AD meeting tomorrow. They're going to talk a little bit more about that. The problem with that is if anyone leaves their car, they now add to the 100. So it's going to be managing how we do that. We do know that we're only going to allow home fans. So the parent tickets and the extras are only going to be given to home fans, and the same thing will be away. When we're playing Caribou away, we will not have any tickets to watch that game. So we will be looking for live stream services. I do believe that Mr. Morgan has already talked to Channel 4 about those services where we can live stream all of those games. It's only 10 games. It's only 5 home, and it's only 5 away. So that is how we're proceeding right now, in addition to all of the guidelines that I shared with you last week, face masking and sanitizing and all of those things. And we would follow the same procedures with middle school. So middle school and varsity would both be moving forward with your approval for soccer, golf, and Cross-country running is what we offer in the fall. Middle school level, Mr. Morgan, we don't offer golf.
Correct. And middle school would not be Webster.
Correct. Just the varsity games would be live streamed.
Is there no JV?
We're not sure about numbers. There may be potential for our girls soccer team to have JV. Mr. Morgan's going to speak with some of the larger schools, which would be Caribou, Prescott, and possibly Holton, might be the only teams carrying JV.
We do have boys and girls.
We do have boys and girls.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Morgan.
Yeah.
So Ben, is this the thing we talked about last time where we played in the county?
Just the county.
Yep.
I'm fine with this.
I think that these rules are pretty strict. And they even have an answer if something goes wrong.
Mhm.
So I would like to make a motion that we follow these guidelines for fall sports.
Second.
I only have one question. I just want a point of clarification. It says that in terms of face covering, okay, it talks about coaches, staff, spectators. For the players of the team, it's optional if they choose to use it.
Only when they're on the field.
So
On the
when they
bench, they
come,
have
when
to.
they come to the bench, they've got to wear a mask.
Correct.
All right.
And they have to be socially distanced 6 feet on the bench.
Okay.
So we're thinking about moving our bleachers to the other side, and the players will actually sit on the bleachers. We will be having each coach sign a letter of assurance that they've read the guidelines, and that we're going to be giving them a 3-strike policy. If I go by a practice and I see coaches with no face masks and they're not following the guidelines, I'll inform Mr. Warngen that's strike 1. At strike 3, we're gonna ask that team to shut it down just because we can't mess around with these guidelines. We'll try to work with folks if they have a hard time, but a blatant disregard for these guidelines that are quite clear, I think is something we can't accept.
Are the other sports are simpler because there's no,
Contact.
no contact. And those are go already, or?
They're part of this approval. Soccer, they've made some rule changes where, to avoid as much of the physical nature as possible, there won't be any slide tackling, things like that. So they're trying to eliminate that physicality, but those of you who've seen a soccer game, it's really hard.
Just be glad we don't play football.
Correct.
The concern in cross-country running is you tend to run in packs.
Yep.
So we're trying to get creative how we start the race, almost like a Nordic ski start.
Mhm.
And probably not as many schools running at one race, probably dual races. And we're gonna work on that tomorrow and try to knock out a schedule, so.
This has been a lot of fun, right, Mr. Morgan?
Yeah, very well. We just really feel bad for all the kids that missed out on the spring sports season, obviously.
All right, any further discussion? All those in favor? The employee assistance program.
And I apologize that you did not have that when the meeting materials were sent last week. I did have it, I just forgot to attach it. So this is what we were talking to you about earlier regarding our employees accessing an employee assistance program. Peter worked with Carrie Thibault at Northern Maine Medical to just identify basically what this is, and you can see the language either on the screen or if it's in your attachment. So it's essentially just giving the contact information to Northern Maine Medical Center, explaining that there will be a service fee and a copay of $25 depending on their insurance, and then we'll cap it at a total of 4 visits covered by the contractor.
This is open for 2 years, I thought I read somewhere.
We're going to start meeting in effect for 2 years.
I guess I don't understand if it says an agreement between Valley Unified and MC, why are we voting on it?
I think because when we had originally pitched the idea, this board was not comfortable moving forward with approval without seeing some kind of language about what this all entails. So we wanted to extend that courtesy to you to see the language of it. You can just give us the thumbs up, we don't really have to approve, but we want you guys comfortable with us offering this to our employees.
I mean, for me, it's the same, it's the issue I have anytime we're reviewing something the first time when we're voting on it. I don't vote in favor of it. I like to have time to review things. I don't like voting on things the first time I see them. So, I mean, that's my position on this. I'm not necessarily staking a claim here, but this isn't how I like to do business, especially in an emergency meeting. I can understand for soccer, because they're for sports, because they gotta get out there and play. And we did get all of the packet beforehand, and we were able to review it for the second time. So I guess that's my position, is that I'd be inclined to move to table it.
If we table this and it's not necessarily our decision, is Valley Unified able to vote on it on the 21st?
Valley Unified doesn't have jurisdiction over your employees, so I would not, it's called Valley Unified because it's simpler for Northern Maine Medical to just write one statement rather than three different. If you don't approve it, we just don't push it out to our employees, and they don't have access to it until it's approved.
I think that's my only concern is the Valley Unified portion of it.
Yep.
Just because I don't know that that's something Valley Unified necessarily budgeted for and how that's gonna be accounted for as individual school districts.
Yep,
I think maybe that's a real simple fix that
absolutely.
we could bring back to the board.
Yep, we can just make it specific to SAD 27.
Think
Peter's
that'd
in.
make more sense, yeah.
Peter?
That's fine.
Or what if it were for the schools of Valley Unified, or?
I think each school district would probably respect the fact that maybe it's gonna be handled
Yep.
according to who is going from which district
Yep.
to seek assistance.
Absolutely. That's a very easy fix.
That way Madawaska knows they're not necessarily paying for Fort Kent educators
Yep.
and vice versa.
Yep.
Just a little clarification.
Yep, and if you wanted to approve with those amendments, we could do.
Toby, how do you feel about that? Still want to review it further, or?
Well, I still don't, I'm not gonna vote in the affirmative for something I just saw for the first time in a meeting. That's just, I've come up with a hard and fast rule for myself.
So,
You guys can follow it if you like.
why don't we make a motion upon further review at the next school board meeting, regular school board meeting, we'll take this up for further discussion.
And that leaves our teachers currently who would need support now.
But they can go see their therapist now.
Well,
I mean, that's the thing, is that all of our teachers, I mean, Terry, you work in Madawaska, it's not that different. If you wanted to go see a therapist tomorrow, could you? Yeah.
Well, your school department approved this.
What's that?
Your school.
Well, even
department.
before this,
Regardless, I ain't seen no therapist, I don't want you to take this.
but even before this, there's nothing stopping our
Right.
teachers from seeking aid. And it's not like we're saying, no, you can't get help, you gotta suffer in silence.
this is just making it easier.
It's allowing them access to triage,
Right.
because it's just triage services. The AP is not treatment, it's triage.
Well, and the other item I'd like to bring up is, you know, with respect to Northern Maine Medical, obviously they're right here in our backyard, but I think there may be other entities out there that provide this sort of assistance for educators across the nation who understand educators in this environment and may be a little bit better suited. But in the meantime, I think this is our option, but maybe down the road, we maybe want to consider an alternative.
And we've looked at Heuristic Mental Health Center, for example, to serve our
Mhm.
students
Sure.
in particular. So we've pursued very similar arrangements, actually having them come into the schools. And then we went with AMHC for that because they have much more experience working with youth on an extended basis.
So Keith, was that a motion that you had to?
Yes. Table till next meeting.
A second.
I'll second that.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
So before we adjourn, we've got our next meeting on the 28th.
Yep.
And I'm hearing from,
I won't be here.
that you're not gonna be there, Gary's not gonna be here.
Nope.
Do we wanna have a discussion about an alternate date for the meeting while we're here, for our regular meeting?
Makes sense to me, yes.
Steve? Jake?
I didn't catch all of that, but you want to see if you want to wait to review that policy at our next board meeting?
I guess you did.
No, Jake, we're talking about, the next board meeting is scheduled for the 28th, and we know that 2 of our board members will absolutely not be able to be present. So the question is, do we want to take another look at what we have for possible dates to meet that doesn't involve the Mooseheim? The rest of the board
Sure, I'm available the 28th, but if you want more participation, I'm open to an alternative time.
Well, we really need to have Gary here. If he had a couple items he wanted to bring up, he needs to be here if we're gonna discuss it. Because we have no idea what he wanted to discuss.
Hey, could you, solicit a couple of days to hear? Find out when he's
It's
available.
very hard to contact during the weeks. I can definitely try. He's hard to reach unless Barry has a connection.
He is around this week,
Oh, is he around?
just not right now.
I mean, could we reschedule?
The following week is a week between loose ends, so maybe, if,
But we really need to have the board chair here.
Yeah.
right,
That's what it boils down
So
to.
you're thinking the week of the 5th, or do we want to try to back it up to sometime during the week of the 21st? As long as, how much notice do we need to give, Ben?
10 days.
No, it's 5 days' notice, but it's just about managing all these board meetings, so
Yeah, no, I know you've got a bunch of them to go to.
yep,
the week of the 5th, the only day is the 5th that doesn't work, if you look at that week. The 6th is open, 7th is open, 8th is open, if you wanna meet on Friday, that's fine, but,
the only day you couldn't do is the 5th?
yeah, we have a 33 board meeting the 5th,
Okay.
well, that's the regular meeting.
When's, the 5th, is that,
That's a Monday.
that's not a
Remember, it
Monday?
doesn't make any difference to me. The week of the 5th, any day is fine by me.
So we do the 6th?
Okay.
Does that work for everybody else?
The 5th?
The 6th,
Oh,
The
wait.
6th, which is on
Tuesday
Tuesday.
the 6th.
I mean, hold
Can we do it on Wednesday?
on. No, maybe the end of that week, let me just check.
I think Gary also said that 4 o'clock meetings are very difficult, so he suggested we go back to 6 p.m.
It's difficult for me.
What date?
We have 4 o'clock, we said.
4 o'clock?
4 o'clocks are difficult for me.
Okay.
Why don't we just do an email with Gary on board and just chat about the next date? As long as we got at least 5 days, we can move it, right? So let's do an email, and by then I'll have caught up with my schedule. There's something I noticed in there, but I don't see it.
Okay,
So I think I'm gonna have to check with the office and make sure it makes it to my electronic.
I'll send something out.
Okay.
Makes sense?
Okay, motion to adjourn?
So move.
Second.
All those in favor?